Look at the time, you guys. It is
Oh, look at that.
9 o'clock on the West Coast, 10 o'clock in the mountains, 12 o'clock on the East Coast. And it's webinar time, which is one of my favorite days. It really is. And I just absolutely love our topic today, you guys. And there's just a couple more people coming in, so we'll just have a quick little introduction. I always like to start on time and end on time, just to kind of be respectful of people's days. So thank you for everybody that is joining our webinar today, and we are just thrilled that you are with us. And a couple of little housekeeping items before we get started. Of course, this webinar is brought to you by the good folks at AtlasRTX, Kimber and your team. Thank you for sharing this information with our audience today. This is just absolutely critical. And Alexis, thank you very much for the online sales survey follow-up. The information is just so critical, and it's not necessarily the information that's critical, but it's what we do with the information after the fact. And hopefully on this webinar today, we'll be able to take some action items on some of our findings. You know, it's always good to do these researched items, but having the findings is another one. So as you can see from our esteemed audience here, our panelists today, Kimber, Gabryszak from AtlasRTX.
Hello.
We've got Alexis from Group2, and myself, Dave Betcher. Kimber, would you just mind giving us a real quick little introduction, who you are, what you do, and what Atlas does as a company?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. Thank you. So I'm Kimber Gabryszak with AtlasRTX. We are a technology company specializing in home building, sales enablement, artificial intelligence chatbots to that end via text and web chat, etc. Based in Park City, Utah. I am from Alaska. So, you know, if you're feeling sorry for me being in the snow, it's okay. I don't mind it. Although I do like this a lot.
I love it.
That would be nice. I wish I were there. But yeah, really excited. I've been working with home builders for the last 4+ years directly, and it is just super exciting to talk about some of the things we've been doing and seeing. I know we have a couple of our clients on the call today too, which is great.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kimber. Alexis, give us a little bit of an introduction.
Yeah, so I first have to give you a shout out, Dave, on how you put our faces on these phones.
I know.
So great.
I just really love it. So I wanted to give you a shout out there because I'm sure you put some effort into that. But yes, I'm Alexis. I'm with Group2 Advertising. We are the ad agency for home builders, all things marketing, websites, and most recently started an online sales coaching program, which I am the director of and very excited about. So been working with builders across the country since 2008. Love everyone we work with and very passionate about this topic and all things marketing related. So thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us. And my name's Dave Betcher. I am a CRM and sales consultant, and I was previously with a well-known CRM tool, and I love our topic today. I just absolutely love it. And what I'm seeing a lot more of is people just looking for avenues that they can reach their customers in a more direct way and get a better response, right? And that's really what we're talking about today. So for our agenda today, initially, Alexis is going to really review our builder website secret shopping, and I'll let Alexis kind of talk about what those results were. But, you know, as we look at these results over the last, call it 10 years, we haven't really seen too much change in the response rates from people that are registering online. And I think if we think about what people, how so much of our marketing efforts are to drive people to our website, to encourage them to register. And we get such a minuscule amount of the overall population that goes to our website that actually registers, just really taking advantage of every single opportunity that we have, whether people are ready to buy today or they're ready to buy in 6 months. So that's really what we'll talk about first with Alexis. And then we're going to talk about some surveys, okay, and just looking at some data that says, you know, how people are being responsive to texting, how businesses are starting to use text a lot more so now. And then we're going to talk a little bit about turning our customers into fans of ours and how we do that typically using texting tools. We're going to talk about TCPA, that is making sure that we are all in compliance with the rules and regulations, just making sure that we understand what is expected of us as an organization, just to make sure that we are following the rules and that we respect our customers' privacy. And then finally, we're going to talk about some really kind of cool texting techniques to really help you engage with your customers. I think we're going to be about 45 minutes, and there's a lot of content here. I talk pretty quickly. I know Kimber, you talk pretty quickly. Alexis, you talk pretty quickly.
Okay.
But I'm looking at our audience today, and I know everybody, and I know everybody's a fast talker too. So the good thing is, I don't know if I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but after the webinar today, of course, we'll be sending this out to everybody on the call for a recording, so you can rewind it later. You know, Saturday night, grab a nice bottle of cab, maybe some popcorn, sit on the couch with the family, and watch the texting webinar. I think that's a fantastic idea. If you guys have any questions at all, please just put them into that Q&A text bot there, or text bot. Look at me, Kimber. I'm just thinking it. Text box. I know, that's kind of what I'm thinking about. And I will be sure to answer them. And anything that we don't get to answer, I will respond to each of you. I'll have one of our esteemed panelists respond to each of you with questions that hopefully will satisfy you. So with that being said, Alexis, I'm going to turn this over to you. Now I'm controlling the slide, so I'm going to kind of, I'll try and get those cues from you. But if you say, Dave, go to the next slide, just let me go to the next slide. That's a lot of blue, by the way. Have you noticed that? That's a lot.
Awake? I know it's early for you, but so yes, here we are in 2021, which is a year like none other. I'm sure we can all agree to that. So we conducted this survey in quarter one of 2021, which is a very crazy time for most of our builders. I do want to say we've also conducted the survey in 2020 quarter one, which was pre-pandemic. And I know many other companies, we've talked about this, Dave, we've been doing these shopping online secret shops for a while now. And so a lot of times you'll think about like, well, that was an odd year. We got to take that data with a grain of salt. But overall, I'd like to say, you know, from 2020 to 2021, pretty consistent with what we saw, because as we're talking to online sales teams, they're just like enamored with leads right now. And just trying to stay with their head above water. That's what we're hearing across the board. But really, you'll see from 2020 to 2021, not much change. And so how did we do this? We actually went on and created a fake customer profile. This person had a name, a phone number, an email address. And so we created this, and we went on to 200 plus builders' websites and filled out contact forms. Big builders, small builders, our clients, don't worry, this is a safe space. But we did it, and then we just kind of collected data over the next 30 days to see what would happen. And it was fun. I gotta tell you, I became like addicted. I kept logging into that fake email account to see what we would get. So next slide, Dave.
There we go.
All right, so what did we find from these results? So to start, I can tell you that 31% of builders followed up one time, whether that be a phone call or an email, but they got the lead, and maybe they did it quickly, but they were one and done. And then they wiped their hands clean and they said they did their job. We did find that 57% of builders responded multiple times, which is a little bit better. But what we know from research and buyer behavior, we actually know that it takes at least six to eight touches to create a viable lead. That's whether it be a phone call, a text, an email, but 6 to 8. And what we found from the survey is that only 11% of builders are following up 6 or more times. So many people aren't even giving themselves that opportunity to create the lead, which is kind of sad in a way. So that's very interesting. And even if you're doing that phone call, that email day one, that text day one, and then again, not following up, you're not really giving yourself a fair opportunity. So only 11% of builders are following up 6 or more times, which was very surprising. Now we did find out 11% of builders did not respond at all. And then looking year over year, there was only a 5% improvement. So we have normal, we'll call it a normal market, quarter one 2020 to this fairy tale that we're living in now, 2021, and no real improvement. But that outreach and that consistency just wasn't there. So that was a little surprising to see.
Alexis, looking at these results and looking over year over year, are you seeing any change? And I know we're going to get to this in a second, but have you seen changes in the way that people are communicating? Are you seeing a higher level of emails compared to phone calls? Did you see any phone calls? And I know we're going to get to that, but
the phone calls are tough. So we do see emails. I swear, and I might say it's like a generational thing, but people are scared to pick up the phone. They don't like to pick up the phone. And so we'll get into this a little bit, but email and phone calls are probably the main source of follow-up, with email being number one. Some people didn't make that phone call at all. Now, a lot of times you're going to get a prospect who does not give you a phone number. That happens as well, and we kind of have to deal with that. But yeah, you're seeing email as your main source.
Okay.
Follow up. So here's some more fun facts for you. All right, we'll start with the average response time. So the fastest response time was 3 minutes. So kudos to whoever that was.
Nice work. That's impressive. Nice work.
The longest time to respond, womp womp, you ready for it? 21 days. Oh, now I do want to say that was not factored in the average response time of 17 hours. That did not skew my numbers. We took that outlier of 21 days and pushed it aside because it was so bad. But that being said, you need to have a goal of 5 minutes or less, because we say it right here, following up within 5 minutes is going to make that conversion 9 times more likely to happen. Speed sells. There's no other way to put it. And so our average response time from this follow-up was 17 hours. It's taking people almost a day to send that email or make that phone call, which one thing we also know is if I'm a consumer, 50% of people are going to go with the home builder that responds to them first. 50%. So if you're not responding quickly or at all, you're losing that prospect before you have the chance to even connect with them. They're eliminating you and choosing your competition because you're too slow. And so you have to have that 5 minutes or less. Now, another thing I do want to bring up is, we can't be on call 24 hours a day as much as we would like to be. And so I do want to say that these we reached out during normal business hours. And so there's obviously going to be that time, if it's late in the evening, you're going to get back first thing in the morning. But it still shouldn't be that 17-hour time frame. So like I said, again, speed sells. They're going to choose the person that gets back to them first. So set yourself up for success. And it's all about speed. Not only consistency, but speed and consistency together is the recipe for success. So, and this is interesting. So another thing that we're finding in today's market is the number of online leads is just through the roof. I mean, people, like I said, are just struggling to get through their regular follow-up. And so one of the trends I think that we're learning is a lot of people are bringing on OSCs. If they haven't had one before, they're really discovering that they need this role. Before you got to have the on-site salesperson pretend to be the OSC, but the way we shop and the way we communicate now, this role is more vital than ever. And so not only are people now hiring for this, but they're bringing on a second one just to kind of manage the lead. So what I thought was interesting, obviously no surprise, 100% of the no responders. So if they didn't respond at all, guess what? They didn't have an OSC. Our top responders did. So it does show how critical that role is, because if I'm an on-site person and I'm like dealing with my traffic and my model and also trying to manage my website and my online leads, you're spread thin here. That's really difficult to do, especially in today's market. So but what I thought was interesting here is looking with an OSC and without an OSC, I was hoping to see those numbers of the people that had that dedicated role to be a little bit higher. And we didn't. And I do think a lot of that has to do with, and I don't want to say the excuse of you're too busy, but I think that's what they're finding right now, that they're just doing the bare minimum to try to get back to people. And I think that's really having us look at our processes and everything that we have in place, because right now it's so important to lay that solid foundation. And we'll get into this a little bit later, but that's where automation comes into play too, right? Because we're human, we can only take on so much. And so I think we need to kind of think about where we can automate, where it makes sense, because we need to build in efficiencies to be able to kind of deal with the market that we're in today. So like I said, phone call attempts, I think 53% didn't even pick up the phone. And again, that could be maybe they didn't have a phone number, but people just don't want to pick up that phone today. 27% made one phone call and 20% made two. But like I said before, it takes 6 to 8 outreaches to create that viable lead. And so when we go in and we develop a successful online sales process, we have 24 plus touch points over 30 days. It might seem like a lot, it might seem like overkill, but it's not just emails, it's a mixture of phone, email, video, text, and really the different ways to communicate. And that 24 touch points over 30 days really isn't that much, but you need to give yourself the opportunity to connect with that customer and eliminate your competition.
You know, one of the things
so fantastic.
What I hear a lot too, Alexis, is the people think that they're too busy and they wait for a response from that first one. So the customer doesn't care that you're that busy, right? And the customer has given you their contact information. So I just cannot emphasize enough the critical importance of making sure that we do have processes in place and that we do incorporate automation for our OSCs to make sure that we're not losing any opportunities. Let your OSCs respond personally to the people that that need that response, that are responding back to the messaging. Let your CRM tools respond automatically in a process-driven format that allows people to still, when they wake up in the morning on a Thursday, they have a day 7 email, they have a day 15 email that has been automated. Still make it look like it's personal, but at the same time, just make sure that you have those touch points in place. And it's just absolutely critical. And then,
I hate to use the word busy because I hate to say I'm busy. So, but another thing that we kind of instill and talk about is time blocking. And so I almost have the people that I'm training with create a calendar and say, from 1 to 2, I'm doing all my video emails, and from 2 to 3, I'm catching up on phone calls. Like, block out your time and dedicate that time to that follow-up because it's so important. And I know we say this again, I always say that the OSC is really setting the stage for the customer experience. You are the first impression of the company. And so if you're responding quickly and you're on the ball with everything, I might choose you over the next builder because it's going to set the stage for my entire customer journey. So just remember that and how powerful you are in that role.
And just a comment on that is you're busy as an OSC, you're busy as an agent, but your buyers are busy. A lot of our buyers today are in the gig economy, working 2 or 3 jobs, or, they have an odd schedule. They're busy. They get the email. They go, oh, I'll take care of that later. They forget. And so by making sure that you have that process in place, you're actually making it easier for them to remember, oh, yes, I meant to open that attachment. Oh, yes, you sent me a text to see if I got the email. I forgot to look in my junk folder. You're making it easier for your buyer because they also feel extremely, extremely busy. So you're making it easier for them.
Awesome
Great
point.
All right, here's where we really break it down. So, like I said before with the phone, only 20% of builders made a phone call. They reached out only once via phone. And like I said, a phone number was provided, but they're making that one call and then they're wiping their hands clean. They're not doing it again. But perhaps the most surprising statistic, which really kind of goes with our topic, is only 9% of builders are utilizing texting. Only 9%, which is such a minimal number. And at the end of the day, it's just a completely missed opportunity. And so that's what we found from our study. And then another great component, which is different, is video email. And I know they take a little bit to get used to, and they're not, no one likes to always be on camera, but that's a powerful tool as well. And only 4% of builders are using video email. So we have all these resources, we have all these tools. Why are we not using all of them? And so of our top responders, and gold stars to you, they did both the text and video. I mean, they're really putting themselves out there. They're doing that mixture of email, phone call, text, and video. And the way we have it built out is we study buyer behavior and psychology. And, we don't just put that follow-up there to make yourself busy. There's a reasoning behind all of it. And, there's specific timing and consistencies, and everything that goes into it is to elicit a customer response. And so I wanted to joke during this, like when Kimber was talking, I was going to be like this to pretend I was texting, but this is the world that we live in, and this is how people communicate. And why are we not taking advantage of this opportunity? And so I think it was really eye-opening in conducting a survey year over year to find out how many builders aren't using texting. And so I think this is a great topic, and it's something that we can all, do a better job at based on our results.
Well, thank you for doing that, Alexis. And I think,
thank you.
To say the responses are very similar. Our consumers have changed, obviously, and we've talked about this for years and years, that typically real estate is slow to adopt into technology or consumer behaviors.
They were a
So
little
if
behind, right? A little bit.
yeah, but looking at these numbers, if we can differentiate ourselves by using some additional tools that our competition isn't, it just puts us at a much higher level in the eyes of our customer and really differentiates us as a organization that cares about its customers. I've asked you to register with me, and this is what I'm going to do to ensure that you are followed up with in these different channels. And I think that's really the key to this. But let's kind of talk about that 9%. I was going to jump it up to 11%. Let's talk about that 9%, and let's talk about this missed opportunity that we have. So, Kimber, one of the things we talk a little bit about is the consumers and what they're telling us, and I think we have to kind of look at ourselves as consumers as well. I mean, we talk marketing all day long, but let's kind of take a look in the mirror and look at ourselves as consumers. So they are telling us, and I'll show you these survey results, and we'll talk about these survey results, but our customers are telling us that texting is the best way to reach them. But the question always is, are we listening to what our customers are telling us? Are we staying with what we've always known? Are we still sending out emails? Are we still not making phone calls? And the answer is yes. But are we going to change the way that we do business with our customers based on what our customers are telling us? So that's always the big thing. So Kimber, let's just kind of talk about talk about these slides for a couple of minutes. So
happy to. It's just crazy. Basically, everyone's texting.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah. So consumers say 58% of consumers. This is from the Zipwhip State of Texting 2021 survey. So this is a brand new survey that was just conducted by Zipwhip, and 58% of people are saying that the best way for a company, not my friends, not my family, but the best way for a company to get a hold of me is to text. You have to get out of the clutter of my inbox or my voicemail, because I'm not going to listen to my voicemail, and I've got 100 messages. Goodness. So what is the mechanism that we can use to ensure? And 60%, almost 60% of people are telling us that texting is the best way to get a hold of us. Okay. And I think those numbers don't surprise any of us. And I think as we look at what's happened during the pandemic, and we look at restaurants and businesses, everybody's starting to adopt to texting within their business environment, aren't they? And even in home building, even though the text isn't all that pertinent as of yet, there's still some really, really key items that we need to ensure that we are utilizing. And I think if we look at these, businesses are going to always adopt to what the consumer behaviors are. And I think in home building, because we are a little behind, we haven't been so fast to adopt. So 70% of businesses saying that they use technologies, 9% of home builders. So there's a real disparity there between what the consumer is used to. They're getting text from every other restaurant, every other business, every other delivery company. They're getting text notifying them, but the home builders are not. And I think that's really where the missed opportunity is. So those are two real key numbers to understand. 60% of people are telling us, but we're not listening. And that's where that's where we're going to change today. Okay. So what is valuable? What message is valuable? And these customers are telling us that appointment reminders are the most valuable. And I think, we're all the same way. My dentist, my chiropractor, right? Anything, I need constant reminders of what I need to do because I'm busy. And if we look at, especially now with COVID, so many of our model homes were opened by appointment only. And what I'm seeing now, and Alexis, you're seeing this with your home builders as well, when an OSC schedules an appointment with a sales agent on site and a customer, the levels of no-shows and the levels of cancellations are high. And the no-show really concerns me. And in many cases, I think, had we been able to communicate with a reminder email or a confirmation that this appointment was set up, it would have a much better view in the eyes of the customer. They've almost blown us off by the time they cancel. And in some cases, I'm seeing cancellations and no-shows in 30% of all appointments that are set. So if we look at an OSC that bust their butt every day to set appointments for agents, and then nobody shows up, and we've missed an opportunity for somebody else at our model home. And it's really just because we haven't done our due diligence in follow-up. And from an OSC perspective, a lot of their revenue is driven by the appointments and then closings on appointments. So those are kinds of things that we just need to ensure that we're doing. And we're going to talk about some hints on that.
Absolutely. I have an appointment at noon today, my time. You're all in different time zones. I have an appointment at noon today that I'd forgotten to put on my calendar.
Yeah.
Got a text last night reminding me, and I was so grateful. I would have missed it. And if I had to reschedule by calling someone, I actually changed providers. It was a salon. I changed it because every time I needed to cancel, I would try to text and I'd get the, please call us at this number. And I'm like, I don't have time to make a call. So I actually changed.
No, exactly it. Now, the other thing that's probably a little disconcerting is that when the survey was done to companies, there was a lot of companies that didn't understand what the responsibilities were to ensure that we are respecting consumers and their privacy and allowing them the opportunity to opt out of messages or to stop messages altogether, but also make them aware that you will be contacting them. So that's another thing we're going to be talking about here in just a couple of minutes, is really just how to understand, what are the best practices for ensuring that we are compliant with TCPA rules. TCPA,
and it's really not that scary. It's just there are a couple of basics, and you just need to know about it, and then look into it and make sure you're compliant. Don't just go into it blindly, but also don't let the existence of the TCPA scare you away from it. It is a tool. The TCPA is there to regulate it and make sure that your buyers have a great experience. But it's not scary. It's easy to comply with.
Absolutely. And it's probably easier than even sending an email. There are some real key things that,
honestly,
it really is. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but just being aware that there is a responsibility that we are compliant with respecting our customers. And a text, I think, has a little bit more of it's a much more deep relationship that's being built with a text,
personal,
personal relationship. Exactly. So we just want to make sure that we are being respectful of our customers. And then these last couple of stats here, 64% of people they spend more time on their cell phone. We were joking the other day about, every Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, Apple sends me a little notification of how much screen time I have for the previous week. And I almost challenge myself now to make sure that I am not exceeding what the previous week was, and very seldom does that happen. Are you guys?
You're happy if it's in the 3-hour range. I was like,
know.
Hey, look at that! I'm down 5 minutes to 3.5 hours a day.
Yeah, I know. Looking at that next stack, 26% more than 4 hours a day on their phone. You know what? I think I'm more than that. And I think for the majority I think that 26% is light. I think there's people saying, oh, geez, I'm not going to give that an honest answer there. Out of all the apps on the phone, the texting app is the most important app and the most frequently utilized for consumers. So we know that people are spending more time on their cell phones, 4 hours a day at the minimum. And the most important app on that phone is not the email app, and it's not the phone. It's texting, right? It's
a phone, and we're not using it for texting. And here, I do have to apologize to a couple of our current clients. You've heard me say this before that are on the call, but I kind of say this is the indictment on humanity, that we just don't want to talk to each other. We don't like each other anymore. We would much rather, if my mom calls me, I text her back and say, I'm busy. Can I call you later? It's kind of horrible, but that's how we are. And if that's how our buyers are, we gotta go there.
Okay. Can I say one thing, Kimber? Pick up the phone when your mom calls, will you? Jeez, poor mother.
Half the time it's in the middle of work because she doesn't understand work hours.
Right.
So, it is but you're right. I should answer my mom.
All right. We'll talk about that later. And again, 50% of people are sending more text than they did before. So it's just, I think we're making the point here, aren't we? That the texting is the direction that we need to go to make sure that our customers have a great experience with us, and we are engaging our customers in the way that they want to be engaged with. All the numbers are telling us this, right? That's what all the numbers are telling us. But there's some other stuff here. Geez, I've got a lot of stats, didn't I?
Data doesn't lie. Data doesn't lie.
Yeah, exactly.
My favorite one's the second one.
Yeah.
The second one, where they proactively reached out to a business. Over a third of our clients are reaching out. It's awesome.
Yeah. So what does that tell us too, Kimber? So that tells us that we have to let our customers know that it's okay to text us. And we're going to talk a little bit about registration forms. We're going to talk about, icons on websites, but we need to let our customers know that it's okay to text us. We're not just an email and a phone organization. We are, we are matching what you, the customer, is is telling us, are telling us. And that's the one thing. So we'll get into that a little bit more, but it's just critical that we tell people on our website and our reg forums that we are a text-friendly organization, and it's absolutely okay to have a conversation with us via text. And if that's the way that most people want to be communicated with, why aren't we matching that consumer demand? So those are just some things to think about. And Alexis, I would probably suggest, you're seeing on a lot of websites now that people are having, text us. So on an OSC reg form, for example, it would say, call us, email us, text us, and that's what we're seeing a lot more.
Just
of
great.
now. Just letting people know that that texting is okay. So what is the benefit? What's the benefit and the unexpected benefits of texting our customers? So Kimber, maybe you just want to talk about these points really quickly.
Yeah, happy to. So now I know we've spent the last half hour talking about texting and how important it is. We just really wanted to drive it home, but let's talk about what the experience is for your buyer and then how you can do this. And I know we have about 15 minutes left, so we'll be efficient. We are fast talkers. We're fast talkers. We're good. But here's the thing. So Alexis talked earlier about how it takes 6 to 8 touches, and that we are in a fairy tale market right now where people are just falling over themselves to buy a home from us. And, this may continue for a while. It may change. You need to have the tools in place to deal with this crazy market, as well as when things slow down as well. And all of that is about saving time and making it more efficient. If a buyer has a question for you and you have to go write an email, check your formatting, make sure it's spelled right, it is so much faster to shoot off 2 or 3 sentences in a text message. You can message 10 people in the same amount of time as you can email a couple of them if you're sending personal outreach. Your customers are also busy. They don't have time to receive an email and then filter through for the 2 or 3 sentences that are what they were looking for. They really appreciate the fact that they got a text. I had a question about the HOA. You sent two sentences with a follow-up opportunity. I can now text you on my time. It's just fantastic, which leads to, not only does it save time, but it gives a balance. There's a balance of power there in this relationship. Dave mentioned that it's a personal relationship. There's this subconscious connection you get when you're texting people, because who did we start with texting? Our friends, our family. Now we're texting with this business, and someone's responsive, and your text can go from chatting about building to talking about the skiing in the area and stuff. You can now easily transition to that personal relationship. Consumers, there's this lack of a requirement that you match up your schedules to be on the phone at the same time. You shoot off a message, your buyer doesn't get it for 20 minutes. They see it, they text you under their desk at work or while they're on this webinar. They respond, you get that message a little later. It's so easy, and it's so much more convenient, and your customer has a little bit more control over how that conversation goes. And then I talked about this, it gets to the point. You have all of this information circulating out there. To Alexis's earlier point about buyers will go with the first person who engages with them. Shoot off a text that answers their question. You are the first person in their queue. You are now top of mind when they are making their decision. It is that easy.
Love it.
Go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, and this one is really just preaching to the choir. We've all been talking about how we only we choose our salon providers based on whether they text us. Our chiropractors text us. Our restaurant delivery texts us. Our doggy daycare texts us. I mean, it just makes it so easy for us in our busy lives. We have more and more information. I have 20 unlistened to voicemails because thankfully it transcribes it into text for me, which is great. By plugging into our day-to-day, it just makes it so much easier. And I so much more appreciate a business that engages with me on my terms, that is convenient. And here you can see partway through the middle paragraph there, if you're reading the fine print, this is how word of mouth marketing starts. We have many clients where we've seen an unknown person text into one of our texting phone numbers, and they got it from their mother-in-law or their next door neighbor because they're raving about this great experience they had. Oh, you're looking for a home? Well, we're buying over here. You have a question? Just text this number, and they show their phone, and now you have a new buyer texting with you, and it's just so seamless.
And the other thing we always have to think about, and I think in our world, we always talk about leads and prospects, but we always have to really think about our buyers and really matching what their expectations are, and just making sure that our buyers are engaged, regardless of where they are within the buying process. And as homes are taking longer to build now, just being able to communicate, not necessarily in an email. An email is still important. There's a lot of information there, but just making sure that we have a communication channel via text that our customers can receive information from us, but then they can also ask questions themselves. And that's what makes for a great experience, right? It's getting the answers to questions that you have and just making sure that you're responsive. And sometimes those responses won't be exactly what the customer wants to hear, but I think being transparent and just allowing us to share that communication in a proactive method just gives us a much greater advantage over what our competition is doing, which is typically nothing, as
exactly
what we're seeing right now. Yeah. So I thought we would just kind of transition and talk a little bit more about some opt-in messaging and just some examples of what we can do just to make sure that we are being compliant. And again, these are super simple. And I know, Kimber, in your role, I mean, this is really front and center important.
Front and center, and, yep.
There is no should I be or should I not be. This is absolutely critical. And we'll get into this a little bit more. You know, when a lot of times when agents are communicating back and forth, this is the last thing on their mind in terms of what being compliant
absolutely
is. So what is opt-in messaging? What is that all about?
Yeah, great question. So before we say anything about this, first of all, I am not a lawyer. Dave's not a lawyer. Alexis is not a lawyer. We are not lawyers. So we are not giving you legal advice. Our only advice is look at this rule and make sure you're aware of it and what it requires. But really, there are just some best practices, and it's all around consent. Did this person consent to be texted to? Did they fill out a reg form with a checkbox on consent? Did they text into you? And really, what it really comes down to, and this, you know, personal text back and forth, direct messages, etc. This really applies to promotional items. You are trying to sell something. You are trying to sell something valuable, a home, to this person. You are going to be sending information, marketing materials, sales materials. So it's important to have documentation that this person consented. You see at the bottom, the footnote, there are lots of different ways that you can do this, and every company has different policies. We just encourage you to check on that and make sure you're compliant. But again, it's not scary. It's not difficult. It's get consent. Just basically just do it. You know, make sure that there's something written that meets your company's legal recommendations on your reg card or your digital reg form or your website on the form. You know, for some of our clients, when they have a digital reg form, it says the word text me and they have to click it in order to register for information. So just making sure that there is some way there. You can see a few options there where people can text in. Texting in, they're initiating the conversation, you're not, and it's in response to marketing. There are lots of different ways you can do this. So we have a few screenshots here. You can do even more. You can do a double opt-in. So reply yes to confirm your subscription. Now, if any of us have received that, sometimes that's received well or not. So there are lots of options. There are two-way conversations where someone texts the business and the sales agent is you know, you can get this. You can also get consent naturally. But again, we're not attorneys, or we're not, you know, we have attorneys on staff that make sure what we're doing is compliant with all of our automation and our chatbots and so on. But there are lots of different ways and different levels. Some of our clients want to do every possible way, and others have it a little softer, but still clear and compliant with the law. Dave, anything you wanted to add on that?
Well, I was just going to say, like in this case, you can just see within that message there that if somebody texts in, they've essentially given you authorization to text them back. So you are being compliant. So you don't necessarily have to get, you know, consent to
reply
to text.
Yes to opt in, etc.
Yeah, but just the natural conversation. Are you okay with scheduling over text, or would you provide phone calls? So really kind of getting their buy-in that you are going to be texting them. And I think that is not only compliant, but I think it's really, I think
in our non-legal opinion.
And of course, right? But I think we're also being considerate, and that's the other thing that we understand.
That's the
text
big piece.
is a higher level relationship, and I think that consideration of our customers, just allowing them to say yes, it's okay to go through this. So when somebody texts us, this might be a message that we would send back to them.
Yep.
No, let me just pop on the right slide here. What about when someone fills out a form, right? So if someone fills out a registration form, it goes into our CRM. Typically, we have an email ready to go there. Why not send a text? And
exactly. One comment on that is save your forms. Some of our clients are smaller, old school. You have a paper form. Once you enter them into your CRM, don't throw that away unless you've scanned it. You need to just save it. It's written consent. So just a few best practices around hygiene that you're tracking that. And then we don't have a slide on it, but you also need, if someone says stop or opt out, systems like ours and others will opt people out automatically and be in compliance. If this is happening, if you're doing it manually yourself, you also need to track that. So just a few things to be aware of. And as long as you have good education and hygiene around that, in your CRM is the best case where you log it. This person does not want to be texted. We're going to email instead. Or this person does not want to be emailed. We're going to call instead, etc. You just track all of that.
Yeah, exactly it. So also extending the conversation. So this is typically for like people that have visited your model, right? And then what happens after the fact. And just getting their buy-in again that it's okay to text. So sending that, usually you would send an email with all your contact information, and then you would send a text as well. But again, having messaging within your text that says, is it okay? Would you like to receive an email via text, or would you like to receive an email? Would it be okay if I texted you? And typically the answer is going to be, if it's a high-level client, high-level prospect, they are typically going to want that response via text rather than via email. Okay.
Yeah. And you don't have to, not every text you send out needs to have it. We don't want it to sound like it's really onerous as well. If you're continuing that conversation and it's fairly seamless, they've given you consent, just carry on. They always have the opportunity to change their preferences at any point. You do not need to have a copy paste where you have opt-in verbiage for every single text you send out. Just those initial touch points to make sure it's clear. And then once you're continuing, just carry on.
Yeah, and don't delete those texts, by the way, just because you need to have that record. And if you are just texting back and forth with your own phone, which we'll talk about here in a couple of minutes, why we typically don't want to do that. But if you are doing that, you just need to show that you have been compliant, and you just want to make sure that if you had to go back to a record, that you did have it in place, that you did receive that that consent. So don't delete your customer's text, because if they come back to you, because they may not delete their text, and if they come back to you saying it wasn't okay, you're not being compliant with TCPA rules, then you have nothing to stand on. So that's just kind of a little helpful hint. Okay, so we covered off a lot already, right? We covered off that people, they want to be texted. We understood what opt-in messages are. So let's talk about some example conversations and some of the techniques that we may not think about as, because I think we get so used to communicating with people like our friends and our family, right? Where we would never utilize these techniques. And the one thing I'm just going to absolutely emphasize here is that as salespeople, we are not texting our friends and our family. So to be using a bunch of acronyms, to be using a bunch of emojis, we have to be professional in our texting, just like we would be professional in our email and our one-on-one communication. So this is not like you were texting your family or your friends, probably your friends more than your family. And
you're presenting your brand, right? At the end of the day, it's your company, it's your brand. You want to reflect who you are at all touch points. So
yeah, and I'm a big fan of smiley faces, but I would,
me too.
I would never utilize 100 of them within a text message like I would if I was, texting with somebody that I had a personal relationship. This is a business relationship, and we have to be considerate that a business relationship is different than a personal relationship. It may turn into a personal relationship, but initially, when we are communicating, proper spelling, proper punctuation, it doesn't give us the right to not capitalize people's names. Those are kinds of things that we just want to be considerate of.
And think about what the purchase is at the end of the day. It's a home. It's a huge investment. So
it's big.
What's appropriate.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Key rule number one is we have to give our customers not permission. We have to let them know that it's okay to text us. Now, I pulled up Eastwood Homes, and on the very bottom, there's an icon on the bottom right, and there is a direct call to action there. Click here to start a conversation. Text us. So it gives people the knowledge that it's okay to text. And sometimes they don't want to pick up the phone, and they know if they fill out a registration form, they just have one question. They know if they fill out that registration form, they're probably going to get a call from a salesperson. except 11% of the time where they won't, or sorry, they're probably not going to get a call from a salesperson if they fill out that registration form, as we have been told. So understanding that consumers want a text, why not give them a platform and the ability that they can send us a text? So there's a number of different ways to do it, but certainly on a, on a website or on a registration form, just let people know that it is okay to text. So have a call, have an email, and then have a text option for people. Okay, so that's kind of step one. And then once they've done that, then let's talk about some follow-up examples. So Kimber, I've taken a lot of these from Atlas examples that that you've put into place. So let's kind of talk about them, and let's talk about the conversation and why we would ask people questions and ask for a response within those questions, rather than just say, thanks for registering. If you have any questions, let me know.
This is absolutely all about engagement. You want, you're not just giving them information, you want them to be engaging. Once they've engaged, they have that sense of relationship with you as a brand. And again, you notice that this here says after a website registration. In terms of the following up within 5 minutes, we can trigger this, and other providers as well can trigger this. Yep. They fill out a web form, within a minute or two, they have a text on their phone. It's immediate. It's, we make it very clear that this is the initial step. It is an immediate automated text, but this is going straight to your sales agent, and the sales agent can then jump in. But this is helping get qualifying information from them. And what we see, what's absolutely crazy, is when people are texting with a business, and it feels like it's a customer service, follow-up for quality. You're engaging with the brand. People are ridiculously honest. We are seeing people text their credit scores, or I'm going through a divorce and I'm going to have this budget, or I just had open heart surgery, so my time frame is out 8 months, but I thought it was good to start planning right now. There's like the things that people will share with you is fantastic, and then you can use that insight to then further engage directly with your sales team and use that information to qualify them, put them in the right product, get them an appointment, and continue that relationship. So here, for example, what's most important to you? They share that. What's your budget? They share that. It's your time frame. They'll share it, and sometimes they'll go into detail about their kids starting school. And look at this, you have this great information. This can happen at midnight. They're online after getting home from a late shift. They're looking at midnight. They're texting with you as a brand. In the morning, you see that and you go, bam, you text back to them and are continuing that conversation. And you are miles ahead of having left 3 voicemails, if you're in the middle performing group, having left 3 voicemails and sent 2 emails that are in their spam box. So that's it's engagement.
Couldn't agree more. And if we look at the amount of leads that we get in right now, having people respond back to us is such a pre-qualifier. So if we know that only 10% of people are actually responding back to our texts, those are the 10% of people who we want to focus in on. So again, we talk about automation.
It's actually more like 70.
Wow, that's crazy, isn't it, Kimber, right? That is a crazy number that people are engaging. So again, people are brutally honest, but have the questions ready. And if you're using a system like AtlasRTX, for example, this is automated, which is fantastic. But even if you're not, even if you're just, have some templates ready. We'll talk about how to kind of do that. But have these templates ready so you don't have to sit and type up everything, because that's a lot of times why there's so much reluctance, because it takes time to do it. So stop taking so much time to do things, make it easier. We'll talk a little bit about that. Have the questions ready and be consistent with your questions, which is awesome. Okay, so what about after a model? Okay, so again, what happens after a model home visit? Okay, so
really quick is just making it really easy for your buyer to self-qualify. We have done studies with tens of thousands of model visits and can tell you the likelihood of a purchase of someone that says they're an interest level of 9 and then answers a reason why versus an interest level of 2. It's absolutely fantastic. So give them an easy response to increase your chance of engaging. Once they're engaging, now you've got them, right? They visit the model, you text them how interested they were or your likelihood of purchasing. There are lots of different options. And then you can follow up with the people that are likely to purchase. You can route the people that say, that are not as interested in that community, route them to your inside sales team. You can now say, oh, well, that wasn't the right fit. Let's find them another community, keep them in the family, and engage with them immediately before they have toured 4 or 5 other communities and forget which one's which. You make yourself stand out. So,
And again, if somebody answers between a 0 and a 5, the likelihood they're going to buy from you is probably very, very low. If they're a 6 to an 8, they
in
may
that
be
community.
In that community. If they're if they're a 6 to an 8, probably a B-rated prospect. If they're a 9 or a 10, they're probably telling you that they loved it, and they're probably ready to buy in some form. So let them answer the questions, but make it simple, right? Make it simple for them to respond back, and then ask another question after the fact that gives them a little bit more of an opportunity to say why they actually liked it. And I tell you, when people engage back in a conversation, it just raises their raises their experience, number one, but it also raises their level of interest in your eyes, and you're able to focus in on the people that have responded back to you, and that's really the key element here. But you'll notice a couple of trends here. In the first one, we've asked a couple of questions: price point, when do you want to buy, what's important to you. Okay, so that's kind of the first thing when you're pre-qualifying. On a model home visit, you're just asking for two simple things. You're asking for a number, what's your likelihood, right? And then you're asking for what did you like the best. So you can kind of see we're just kind of keeping it nice and simple. Okay, now I wouldn't suggest
I would probably too much time on. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, now in this one, I probably wouldn't send out 5 individual text messages in this case. I probably would have put it all into one.
Yeah, just put it in one message, but give it something really easy. Right now we have so many leads coming in, it's really hard to keep track with them. So adding something into your process, into your workflow that says, okay, after 2 weeks, it used to be 30 to 60 days. Now it's about 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, check back in with them, see if they're still in the market and worth keeping in your list, or moving into a lost because they've already purchased elsewhere. So this is just a quick example. Give them an ABC option or something like that. So
ABC options are great. And I tell you, instead of sending out an email and then waiting for a reply back, that reply could come back if it ever comes back. This is a simple way to get an immediate response. And all they're doing to you is giving you an ABC. If they give you a C or a B, that's great. If they give you an A, those are those are people that you spend more time on. So those are just some ideas.
And we, you work through your workflow and map these types of touch points to your workflow, to your stages, to your ratings. Are you rating them as hot or cold? What's your priority for follow-up, et cetera? And we could probably go to the next slide.
So this is a pre-appointment. So when you've got an appointment in place, why not send out an appointment? Now, again, this could be done with an appointment scheduler, which we all, like Atlas certainly can provide that. But at least have a text template ready to go. And you'll see on the bottom where it says, please respond with a C to confirm. This doesn't need to have any kind of automation. All you're asking for people to do is respond with some kind of response. So you're sending out an email, you're sending out a text, and then you're really just asking for some kind of response. Make it simple for them to respond back. And if they want to confirm, just say respond back with a C. And now you have that confirmation in place, and that's in their record. They confirmed. So this isn't necessarily the day of the appointment. This would be when that appointment is set. And then you probably send another one the day of the appointment, just as a final
or the day
reminder.
before,
Yeah, exactly.
And you can automate some of that as well with a yes, no, right? And they say no, and it can automate a text that says, oh, when would you like to reschedule? You just saved yourself 10 minutes.
Yeah, no, exactly it. So there's a real theme here, right? And the theme is, instead of texting a lot of conversation, some predefined questions that you would send out to people to elicit a response, making it really simple for people to respond with a number 0 to 10, with an ABC, with a confirmation of a C. So just make it very simple for people to give you an honest answer. And I think that's where we sometimes forget that people are busy, and just doing something really quickly is what we want. But what we really want is that response back from them to ensure that we are dealing with the people who are interested in buying from us. And the other ones, we've got automation tools to manage those people, right?
And you can go farther and have chatbots behind the scenes that are helping run those and answering questions and using some logic to help even further save time for you. If they answered this way, it goes a certain direction. If they answered that way, it goes a certain direction. You're giving your buyer a really great experience, saving yourself time, and then jumping in yourself with the personal touch where you're needed, as opposed to answering the same 20 questions 100 times a day, letting the system handle that for you and streamlining. Anyway, just throw that in.
Yeah, no, I love
where to start?
So where do we start? Okay, so now that we know that texting is important, that we should put this into our process, let's get it into our sales processes. And regardless of what CRM tools you're using, you can put it into a process. So somebody registers from a website, okay, goes into your CRM, immediate auto reply email, and then a personal follow-up email. In that follow-up email, you've got all your contact information there. You've got calls to action. But in conjunction with that follow-up email, send out a text message as well. So you'll see that it says immediate text. On day 3, you're going to send your day 3 email out if they haven't responded, right? This is only for people that haven't responded. We're trying to elicit a response here. So day 3, send another email. Day 7, send a text. Day 10, another email. Day 15, another email. Day 22, another email. And then finally on day 30, you can say, hey, where are you? And just get that response back. So you can see that we've really, within that 30 days, we have 8 points of contact here compared to the 2.6 points of contact that is on average, with 9% of those contacts being text. Now we have ensured that we've taken every avenue and certainly put in some phone calls in here as well and some video emails. I really encourage you to do that because it is a differentiator. But the text message inserted into our follow-up is going to ensure that we are taking every avenue that we possibly can, that our clients are getting that are getting communication from us. And we're interested in our customers. We're not just sending a one and done. We're interested in our customers. So I guess probably the simplest and the things that probably we're all thinking about right now is, okay, so how do I get started on my own phone? So without having tools in place, and we're going to talk about the importance of having tools in place, but now that we've got our own phone and we've texted, what I really recommend is creating some templates for yourself. And simplest way to do it, create these templates in your notes. Give them a title, okay? In your notes folder, whether you're on an app or an Apple or an Android phone, you've got the ability to create folders in your notes, and then you can create different text based on the scenario that we're in. So we talked about a bunch of different scenarios: pre-appointment, after a web registration, re-engagement. So have those templates in place on your phone in the notes section, and then very easily copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. We all know how to do it. We do it all the time, but have that as part of your process. So that's kind of the simplest way to get started on your own phone. Okay. Now, second thing you can do, there's a ton of apps out there, and we probably don't even think about this, but create an SMS template. Well, download an SMS template app. I use this, and what it allows me to do, it allows me to create my own templates in an app. And then when I click on re-engage old leads, what will happen is that template that I've created will populate into my texting app automatically. So that text is going right into my template app. Now I can also put an image in there. I can put my logo in there. All those kinds of things that are important for me to do, I can pre-create. So just go to the App Store and type in SMS template app and download an SMS template app. And then create those templates. Again, nobody knows that this is a template that you're sending out, just like the email templates that you're sending out. Nobody knows. All they want is a personal response from you. This gives you the opportunity to do it. This is a great tool. Love that. But there are some inherent risks of sending from your own cell phone. So although those are some simple mechanisms, there are some risks.
They'll get you started.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as an organization, we need to be really cognizant that we don't want those risks taking place. And as much as we encourage our sales agents to communicate via text, we have to make the investment to understand that there are some risks for us as an organization that we don't want to take on. And by making the investment, understanding that this is probably the most important method of communication that is in place right now. You've got your email tools that you've invested in. You've got your phone tools, your call rails, your GoToConnects of the world that you have invested in. It's really critical that you invest in some corporate texting platforms, very similar to AtlasRTX. We'll talk about that in just a second. But talking about some of the risks, and there's a lot of text on the screen, and you can read it after the case. But
yeah, you'll get a copy.
First and foremost, we just want to make sure that our management, we understand what our sales agents are saying, and we've got a record of that, so it stays within our CRM. We can ensure that our sales agents are being compliant with TCPA best practices. There's a separation between work emails and business emails, and they're not getting jumbled up within my texting app. Lost client information, right? One of the things that we just, we don't want to have people deleting messages that may be important, or maybe if there's an audit that needs to be done, maybe if there's some litigation that people said, well, you said this, you said that. Sorry, Kimber, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, or, we often have our agents move around communities, or we have inside sales move to field sales or move around in the organization. And you don't want that buyer's information going on their phone away. That information should stay in the CRM, in the central location, so that you have an inside salesperson move to a different role, you hire someone new. That conversation history is now available to the next person so they can continue the process. It just makes it much more consistent and seamless.
Yeah. So yes, texting is a very good thing. But we just want to make sure that as an organization, we understand that there are some inherent risks with allowing our salespeople to text on their own phones, and investing into some other platforms like AtlasRTX, and AtlasRTX is our sponsor for today's webinar. So it's really important that we understand the benefits of subscribing to messaging platforms. And I think, right off the bat, ensuring your TCPA compliance, right? You've got all of the tools in place to ensure that your messages are compliant. Your messages are stored centrally. You're not losing any information. It connects with your CRM. So when you send a text from the app on your phone, that it connects and it makes a record inside of the CRM's history that text was sent and replied to. Absolutely critical. If you want to, you can have some text bot functionality, which allows a bot to communicate, very similar to automation within the emails. It allows texting to be automated as well, and being able to set that up. Multi-language, and multi-language communication is just so critical. I think we think that the English language is, but in many cases our buyers are not they're not from the US or Canada inherently, so they may have other languages. So being able to allow people to communicate in the language of their choice, and then have the chat tool be able to respond back in that language, critical. And that's all done within the Atlas platform for sure. Automation, talked a little bit about that. And then you've got brand and message control as well. And those are some of the critical things that if we rely on our sales agents, just like if we rely on sales agents to send out mass emails, and Alexis, we've seen this before, haven't we? Where I think salespeople have the best intent when they're creating mass emails, but they don't always follow our brand or our messaging standards that we put into place. So again, let's get to the point where we are believing that text is the right direction that we need to go, but also understanding that there are some risks when we're allowing our sales agents to just go free for all within their texting. So you guys, that is really all that we wanted to present today, and I hope you got some value from that. I'm sure there were some tools in there that right on the button, which is awesome. And when I say we love this stuff, we love this stuff. We absolutely do. And I really encourage you. And one of the things that I think I always say a lot of is lean on the people that are the experts in the field. I know for myself, Kimber, Alexis, I don't care if you're a customer or not. If you've got questions about your business or best practices, I am here as a resource, right? And Kimber, you are an amazing resource. Alexis, you're an incredible resource. And we've got teams of people who are resources within the organization. So I don't want anybody to hesitate. If you've got questions, that you can reach out to any of us. And if you're going to send a text, just say who you are. That's always a good one when you're sending a text. Don't just say, hey, I have a question. Say, hey, it's Dave calling, and I have a question about texting. You can also say, I loved your webinar today. I have a question about texting.
That would be great.
We could give you some best practices, but I really encourage you.
Those are our mobile numbers right there. So
they are,
obviously
yes.
We believe in mobile texting.
So I want to thank everybody, but especially I want to thank you, Kimber, and you, Alexis, for being part of the webinar today. Well, this is just some
thank both of you. This is fantastic.
Great information, and I hope everybody on the call got some value from this. We will be sending out this video as soon as it downloads. I'll format a nice, pretty little email. And again, don't hesitate to reach out. So on behalf of myself, Kimber, and Alexis, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.